and they've got the CrossFit Medical Society on. They're talking about the cost of medical cover and insurance over in the US. And I had no idea, like, how fortunate we are over here to have what we've got as an option with the NHS, you know.
Yeah, it's nuts. Even if you get an ambulance called in the States, it's like, what, like 5 to 10 grand.
It's crazy.
Like before anything else happens. Which is nuts.
Yeah, they were just talking about like a giving birth. It's like 15 grand. I was like, fuck, you know, home birth it is.
Yeah, well, that's what remember Grant was saying. He's obviously just had his second child, his son, and that's what he was saying. It was about 20 G's.
Yeah, bloody hell, that's nuts, isn't it?
Wow.
Hi, Greg. Hey, Ken.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Outside the Box. We never actually introduce it like that. It's the most unprofessional show going, so you can relax. Tonight we are joined by Dr. Gaurav Gupta. Did I say that correctly?
About as good as my schoolmate. So
there we go. I think I asked you about 3 times before I introduced you on stage at Coaches Congress, and if you'd heard me the night prior in the hotel room, Jake was probably sick of me like repeating it. Because I was like, I need to ask like how to pronounce this name. Because I didn't want to pronounce anyone's name wrong.
Yeah.
Like
introducing. Then you introduced Annie as Eddie Thor's daughter. Yeah, one of my really good mates, you share a name with him. I call him G because he likes it. But yeah, Gaurav is his name. So Yon was like, how'd you say it? I was like, I don't know. Yeah. Just go with it. But yeah, there we go. Anyway,
when I introduced Annie, though, before we like start, I did. It's just the penis doctor. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out, David. When I introduced Annie was there to talk about, you know, like pre and postnatal stuff. But on her website, everything, and on the Coaches Congress website, it was advertised as menopause. So I went up there and spoke about the menopause, and then Annie came on and didn't even speak about menopause.
Oh God!
So I was sitting there thinking, like, oh, everyone's going to think I'm the idiot. But it was all that was what was on the Coaches Congress website. It was all to do with menopause. Anyway, so we met Dr. Gupta at Coaches Congress, and I had the pleasure of introducing him onto the stage. You were the first speaker, were you, on the Saturday? In the room that I had the pleasure of being on stage at for those brief moments, and he is a longevity doctor. So he runs a company called, is it Thrive Doctor, out of London? And I don't want to, I'll not give too much away because we'll just kind of dive in and we'll just kind of go from there. And Jake never got to hear you speak, so I don't think he did anyway.
No.
You were emptying downstairs, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So very soon after you'd spoken on the Saturday, and as we went through, I think Jon had said that he'd talked to you and mentioned that you might be able to come on the show. So I like to find stuff out sometimes live in the flesh like this. So adds a little bit, and the questioning I find is pretty cool. So yeah, so it's interesting. It's a really good time to have you on. We've been talking about longevity as a phrase and health, and within the realm of CrossFit. What I'd like to understand, obviously you were at Coaches Congress. Have you got any particular knowledge around the methodology of CrossFit in particular, or is it gyms in general that you've established yourself with?
Yeah, so we've been in partnership with gyms for up to around a year now, but I'm very interested in CrossFit gyms, given that they have not just the benefits of gyms, you know, the heart health, the muscle health, but also the sense of community. It was actually a patient of ours who's active in a CrossFit gym that got me interested in thinking, look, this could be a good partnership. So now that's what made me think, look, let's come to Coaches Congress. I think we were going to come anyway, but then I had a good chat with Henrik, the founder of Coaches Congress, and he kind of gave me a heads up. Look, this is going to be very kind of high yield of CrossFit gyms. So if you are interested going down this avenue, don't miss out. And yeah, I've not been disappointed from everyone company we came across. It's such a, I think you got the magic balance of being super competitive, but then also kind of community oriented as well. So it's a really positive experience. And yeah, we've been following up with lots of CrossFit gym owners. Yeah, I think it seems like it's a good network. So once you do something well, and that's how I want to approach things, do something well in low volume, get it going, and then you can kind of scale and kind of scale your impact.
It's a really interesting time in our corner of the industry with CrossFit. We've kind of, we're refocusing and sort of CrossFit HQ are rebranding themselves towards the Forging Elite Fitness, and that there's this sort of merger again between the sport and performance and the community and the health side of it and the benefits and the hard work and the cure and that kind of thing. So it's a really interesting time for CrossFit. And for myself, like Jon and I, we do love the sport. We're going to Rogue in Scotland this weekend, come in. Like we're really interested in it and it's fun. But for us, it's the circus. It's the thing that comes to town once a year and we love it and it's an enjoyment thing. But we are coaches through and through. We want people healthy, happy and living longer and better, not just living longer. Which is really why when Jon listened to you talk, he said straight away, we need to talk to this guy because his company is like exactly the kind of thing that we're interested in. Rather than kind of the high-end performance side of it.
Well, it was just music. It was music to my ears. It was like everything you were talking about was like the health markers, like, you know, the key metrics that people should be like keeping an eye on as, you know, as they age, and not just like, yes, obviously, like, you know, the methodology as Greg Glassman, you know, defined it as, you know, it's what fitness over, what is it, Jake? You'll what is it? I can't even. Fitness is increased work capacity across broad time and modal domains. Yeah, but that's very like, that is very broad. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about health and longevity, there's other metrics that you are like speaking about that people probably don't even take into consideration when we're thinking about, you know, our health and like and longevity. So like hearing you speak, I thought like, oh, this would be a great like topic to kind of bring into here. And you can actually tell us about what are your key, like what are the key things that you actually focus in on. Obviously I've listened to you speak, so I've kind of got a bit of like a one up, but like what are your key like metrics, what your KPIs, your like points of performance that you actually focus in on people?
Yeah, exactly. So I think data is key, and when we are, if you choose your metrics well, and you can kind of touch base, whether that's weekly, monthly, or even quarterly, looking at your various metrics, if you choose them well, you're laughing, you can't go wrong. So yeah, where a traditional NHS or even a corporate medicine doctor might be looking at what category are you in terms of your blood pressure, normal or hypertensive? What are you in terms of your blood sugars, normal, pre-diabetic or diabetic? It's kind of cheap and convenient categorization, which is helpful for dealing with a mass population of people. BMI, I don't like to use it, but I can see why just a snapshot of everyone, height and weight, okay, we can categorize people very crudely. But when it comes to kind of wanting to go a little bit deeper, looking after you as the individual, then I think there are different metrics. They're a lot more useful. And so ones that we like to use are grip strength, performance. So yeah, I love that definition before. So that, and this is individualized to the person. So we've got a 59-year-old woman who initially I didn't believe. I needed to see a recording of her. She's now doing sets of 5 pull-ups. So that's definitely a metric I'll be measuring. How many, it might not be pull-ups specifically for everyone, but how many pull-ups can you do? How many press-ups might you be able to do? How many squats? So some kind of performance base, and I like to dive it, kind of categorize it into maybe an upper and a lower body, an upper body push, an upper body pull, and a lower body. So there's no big glaring gaps. Other one is VO2 max. So fantastic. This is probably the number one indicator of your life expectancy, your longevity, is your VO2 max. So what a wonderful thing to be able to see where it is, not just categorize it, say, go away, you're fine, but actually try and inch every month, every quarter, upwards, and perhaps even more importantly than trying to constantly progress, because we do get busy in life. Even if we're maintaining, just making sure that we're not, declining aggressively without being aware of it. So, being mindful of that, and I think that's useful for all of our metrics.
So, sorry, I know I'm going to deviate away here slightly. We look at kind of markers and performance, and Glassman talks about this a lot. And he, if you've got I don't know if you're aware of like Fran and some of the CrossFit workouts. I don't know how kind of your knowledge base is, particularly in CrossFit. But one of the hallmark CrossFit workouts, the girl workout, Fran, 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups. If you can do Fran under 4 minutes, chances are you're healthy physically. And the reason for that is because if you are able to do all of that, your body is working extremely efficiently with energy systems, with VO2 capacity, with everything considered. You are therefore able to. It's an indicator of your ability to express that health. Now, I'm on the fence all about this, because I look at the elite athletes, and I've been going back and forward, and me and John spoke about this all the time, off and on, online, about whether or not I think they're healthy for longevity or not. I don't think for longevity they're healthy, but I think at the moment right now they're extremely healthy. Whether or not it's sustainable is another thing. And over the last, say, 10 years, a lot of those people that were what we would consider healthy, because we equate with CrossFit fitness to health, they tear off, they change what they're doing. They don't do what we would consider that health fitness branch. So they change it. So at the top elite level, there's a miscommunication as to it's healthy right now, but it isn't for longevity, which is this really rocky ground that we're treading on with CrossFit, because at the elite level, I'm not sure that they're setting themselves up for longevity, just like every other elite sport. I don't think it's set up for health. And one thing I do want to bring up very, very quickly, if you don't mind, Jon, sorry, and no, and this, because it's very appropriate for what we're talking about right now. And again, if you have you seen this before? This continuum, that's all. So
Six wellness fitness continuum. Okay.
Yeah. So it's this thing that we teach on the L1 and then again the L2. So it's this continuum that we talk about. And generally speaking, when people come into the gym at CrossFit, they're somewhere between sickness and wellness. And if you go to the extreme end on the left of sickness, that is basically death. You are as close to death as you can get without being dead on the left. And as we continue our work our way around that continuum to wellness, wellness is when you're well, you're efficient, you're okay, and you're relatively healthy. If you continue down that route, you get towards fitness, which is what we would consider super health, like the fittest on earth. And that is where this idea of let's test these guys to see how fit they are by indicators of performance. So that's where the CrossFit Games was spawned. Mm-hmm. This is where we're going to test it. And over the years, it's warped and it's changed into this thing where they're eating tons of sugar around competition. Their nutrition isn't quite right. They're on the borderline of injury constantly. They're getting burnout. They're getting rhabdo. It's not health as such. And it's this really murky water. Now, we would look at these indicators for health markers. This wellness, blood pressure, body fat percentage, body density, triglycerides, HDL, glycated hemoglobin, muscle mass, and there's a few other things. I know you talked about performance. So before you get into the actual health markers, do you, first of all, do you get what I'm trying to articulate there with there's a murky water somewhere between that health and that performance side of things? And do we want to cap the performance in some degrees, because we then end up going away from longevity?
You're too far away from
you're removing yourself from the longevity equation because you're pushing further away from it. So you're almost going further around back towards sickness. Just want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. 100%, I agree with you. I think that there are trade-offs when it comes to getting to the elite level. There are trade-offs, whether you can think of a mixed martial artist. Does he want to get stronger or does he want to get lighter?
Mhm.
Difficult to do both, so it's a trade-off. Elite runners, frequently they're going to have issues with hormone health, issues with joint pain. We know that there's a trade-off. We know that elite athletes, there was a study I remember reading about 20 years ago that they would, I don't even know if it's a real study to be honest, I just heard it quoted, that they would, for Olympic athletes, and I grew up with one, very, very passionate about what he does, weightlifter, we'll talk about him maybe later. But in the survey of elite athletes, they said, would you win gold? Would you sacrifice 20 years of your life to win gold? And they basically unanimously said yes. And
Yeah,
they do.
I've read that.
Yeah, so that means it must be true, right? That's two out of three.
Two out of three of us have.
So I think that, that's quite intuitive. When you go to the extreme, then you are going to potentially sacrifice your health. So it is, a trade-off. Olympic weightlifting, it used to be one of the lifts was the overhead press, the clean, the military press essentially, but it got harder and harder to judge. You're more hyperextending your back more and more. It's ruining your lumbar spine. It's almost a bench press without a bench at this point.
Yeah.
And people are sacrificing their skeletal health for that gold. So definitely when it comes to the elite side of things, performance can have a detriment to your long-term health for sure.
My father-in-law won the Commonwealths in 1990 in weightlifting. And he's got an artificial hip, needs the other one done. He's got an artificial knee. His spine's basically falling apart. His bicep tendons on both arms have snapped. So he's got Popeye arms where it's just sunken down. Yeah. He's 57. But he wouldn't change it for the world. He's got the Commonwealth golds hanging up in his living room with a picture of himself in a little singlet. And he's living the dream now, just watching it and looking back.
Yeah.
Like you say, elite sports people, they're built different. They're just different. They've got something different going on in their head, and they'll put up with it, and they'll put up with the pain and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a really tricky ground, because with CrossFit we talk about it being a methodology. We talk about the tip of the spear being a part of a portion of what we have available, but yet it seems to get the most amount of attention out of all of it because it's sexier, because it's quicker and faster and stronger. But when we're coaching at the gym, and this is where we'll come back to Drive Doctor, and the benefit and value of it for affiliates and coaches, is we don't deal with the elite really. They're 0.1% of our members and our community. So we need to think about the other 99.99% of the community that need to live longer, and they're doing CrossFit to live longer and for longevity and health.
Yeah. I think people need to be reminded, or maybe have a think, what are you trying to optimize for? So even for the everyday athlete who's not, looking for a gold at the Commonwealth, so we work with a lot of people that they're not working in CrossFit gyms, and they may be thinking, yeah, I want to do long distance running 5 times a week. If that's your reason, your purpose right now, then by all means. But as your longevity doctor, this is why I would maybe not want you to do this. Can we tailor it down? Can we still look at other gaps in your protocol? But you need to tell me what's your priority. If it is to be an elite long distance runner for your biology right now, then as long as you're informed, right? This comes from the NHS. We're taught get informed consent. So you give them the pros, you give them the cons, you make sure they understand it, and then you do what you want to do. So I'm not here to tell people what to do. I want to make sure that people have the capacity to understand what the pros are, what the cons are, and then take it from there.
Yeah, they've got all the information at hand. It's up to them to make an informed choice, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's our job as coaches as well. I literally did a post on my social media yesterday about you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. It's like, sadly, some people are like, they're going to go against your judgment anyway, like with all that information, but you can only be there to provide it. So talking about Thrive Doctor, what was the moment like? Because obviously you were a working GP, I believe, in London. What was like the moment where you thought like you needed to not that you needed to get out of the NHS, but obviously you did want to get out of that way of working, and what was like that kind of like aha moment that kind of spawned the business that you're in now?
Yeah, so it was a few stepping stones. So the aha moment where I thought, right, I actually need to create Thrive Doctor. I can't keep trying other models. So I did try working for a health tech startup where we piloted an online longevity clinic. I did try corporate medicine. So I was working in Canary Wharf, looking after kind of bankers, JP Morgan staff. And the aha moment was there where like I'm just there for you. Like you're my patient. I spend an hour with you, probably go over and catch up in my break. And because I'm generally quite quick as a doctor, so I'm happy if there's a glint in your eye and we can go down the rabbit hole, then let's go. But so if I wanted to request a blood test, and that was on one of your on that continuum, the HbA1c, which I don't think is the best test, to be honest, but in the parameters I was working in, it was a useful test. I would always request it because it's useful. It is somewhat useful, but I'd get a slap on the wrist saying, this patient didn't meet this criteria, so there's no funding for that. Why have you done that? So yeah, I got pretty discontent with. It was just another system in, system out. Got more time with them, but they couldn't see me again. So even if we've kind of made some magic, made a longevity protocol, the best plan in the world is so often just forgotten, right? So they want to see me again, but there was no capacity to do that. Wait a year. So I just thought that, this is very natural. I have to do what I'm doing, but have freedom to do whatever testing I want to. So I replaced some of the testing that they're doing with a little bit more exciting, more impactful stuff. And then the freedom to kind of see them for our longest patient is around just under a year. So we can work with people over a long period of time. I'm very interested in kind of how we're going to get someone to live longer, but live better, have a better perception of their life, feel better in their body and their brain chemistry and their mental health. A little bit more difficult to measure, but that is another metric, if you like, their mood, their sustainability on that front. And so, yeah, that was around 18 months ago. And it was initially myself and just looking after some of these corporate patients. Then we got a few. I thought it was actually going to be very male oriented and a certain kind of person, but actually we've seen a wide range of people. It's about a 60-40 split, 40% around our ladies. And in terms of age groups, we've got kind of people that, they're in the city, they've got a really busy job. Maybe they're new parents or parents of younger kids, and they can feel their health is slipping away. They're trying to stay active in the gym, or maybe not. Maybe they've given that up completely. So they need their best health to kind of run in the background of their mind, kind of on screen. So this is what we started to see a lot of success in, and kind of making it easy for them, giving them actionable strategies tailored for them. And then when they see it in real time, the progression. And then we've also got, on the other side of the spectrum, we've got partnerships with golf clubs. So a lot of people in their 60s and 70s, and a couple that are even older than that maybe they're quite active, maybe doing even more steps than I do on a daily basis. And they're like, hey, my GP is saying that I need to take this third med. Do I really need to? Well, actually, maybe we can work to get rid of them all, because I used to work in A&Es. I know how frequent it is. Once you're over 60 and you're on more than a couple of medications, it's very likely that one of those medication adverse effects or complicating effects, like one on top of the other.
You go on one medication, it creates another symptom for you to then have to go on something else, doesn't it? It's like it's just that kind of never-ending cycle, isn't it?
Exactly, and it's a compounded effect. So if you're on 3 different medications, let's say a statin and a couple of blood pressure medications, that's not just 3 times as concerning or risky. That's not 3 times concerning than one medication. It's probably about 9 or 10 times. So it multiplies. So if we can, like, that's one of my favorite kind of stories, is a guy 50s, 60s on a bunch of medication just because he's been busy making a business, providing, getting on with it, had his head down, and now he looks up and suddenly big gut, lots of medications. And you're thinking, what the hell happened? I used to play rugby in my 20s.
Yeah.
And let's turn that around, and we can. And it's one of my favorite kind of people to work with.
I've actually got a client that came to me on 5 different types of medication, and within the first year, like now on no medication.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful.
And that's someone that's in the medical profession, but they were just like, it was the norm. And then now it's not, that they're off all that.
Yeah, we have a lot of patients that are doctors themselves. I unfortunately think that the landscape is that doctors are not necessarily leading by example. They're not necessarily going down prevention routes. They're stressed out, and they're largely, a big part of a hospital doctor's role is to follow pre-written algorithmic kind of pharmaceutical guidelines.
Especially you don't have time, like you don't have the time with people, isn't it? It's like, what, 15 minutes you've got, if that, with a patient. Like there's not even time to discuss options, is there really?
Yeah, I mean, so commonly
have the knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. So firstly, have they had the training or the recent training, or have they lived that kind of prevention lifestyle? Often not. Then you say 15 minutes. I think a lot of GP, I don't know if you've got GPs in your audience, they'll be pretty happy with 15 minutes. Normally it's 10 minutes, and often it's multiple problems the patient's going to bring. And usually one of them is semi-acute, meaning it needs something kind of urgent. They want a tablet, they want something quickly, a referral. So yeah, it's not set up for prevention. And then when they book in again, maybe they're going to see a different doctor. It's not incentivized for the longevity, the prevention side of things. Then we also touched on that that factor. Nobody got fired for buying IBM. So when you've got a job which is kind of high stakes, whether you're looking after someone's money, this is from the markets, or whether you're looking after someone's health, a big part of that, you're incentivized. The system essentially incentivizes you to act defensively. Make sure you don't do things that your peers in a corridor or your bosses are going to fire you for or criticize you for. So they do things that are sensible, that are by the book, not necessarily the best thing for the patient, but good enough, sensible. Definitely, you can't critique it. So this is why if you walk into your doctor's office and you've had a few weeks of low mood and a relationship breakup, they may give you that antidepressant because no one's going to criticize them.
We spoke about that at Coaches Congress. That's exactly what happened to me. I went in and it was something totally unrelated to depression. But as soon as I started speaking, they were like, "We think you've got depression," and they ripped me a script for sertraline that I was just like, "Well, I'm not depressed." And that was like initial. It was like, take these 4 weeks and we'll give you a call. And then 4 weeks later, no call. And I was just like, what the hell's going on? And that was like, I'd said, I'm not depressed. They're like, no, we think you are. We'll write you this. We'll write you this script up. And I was like, okay, that's the route that they went down, just in like off a 2-minute conversation.
Yeah, and we see this all the time. I mean, when you said that, reminded me of when I was a junior doctor. We saw I was in a GP practice with my supervisor. I wasn't a GP at the time, just training. And we saw a 17-year-old boy with his father, and he was just absent from school. That was making him more anxious, vicious cycle. I've been there myself. I wasn't the most attendant at school. And then that made him, missed some assignments, maybe relationship stuff. And his dad thought he needs antidepressants. Even before I've kind of really gone down the rabbit hole of whether antidepressants are always the right thing, the chemical imbalance theory, which is now being debunked. Instinctively, I kind of tried to delay it. And I said, look, antidepressants are on the table if and when you need them. But this is a difficult time. It's difficult. I think it's difficult to be a guy today, a young man. It's difficult to pretend to study or study for 8 hours a day. It's difficult to not know what you're going to do. Get a degree, don't get a degree. What are you going to do? A business, all businesses fail. House prices, this is a tough time. Why don't you go through a normal grief reaction or a normal kind of emotional processing rather than here's a blank check, which, you're going to sign a blank check. It's going to change your brain chemistry to make you more functional, whatever that means. And then, we know that antidepressants increase your risk of suicide ideation. We know that it causes sexual performance problems. Never mind. Well, that nobody got fired for giving antidepressants as long as we're following the guidelines. So I was saying in this scenario kind of everything I just said there.
Yeah.
And my supervisor leaned over and said, let's give them. And we ended up giving them.
It's nuts, isn't it?
It's a shame really, because the CrossFit did a campaign recently, We've Got the Cure, and they have to have a blanket approach. It's a little bit of clickbait, we've got the cure. Cure for what? Okay, let's click on that and let's go through it. And we talk about chronic disease as this big kind of epidemic, or pandemic really, if you look at across the first world countries.
Wonder, have you seen the 5 buckets of death? That would be a good one.
Yeah. So well, we'll bring that up in a sec. It's a demonstration of chronic disease that Greg Glassman put out a few years back. But we at the affiliate level, so I'm working on the front line. I've been doing it since 2012. I've seen thousands of people go through affiliates. I've owned a couple of affiliates. I've talked people down at 11 o'clock at night off a bridge. One of my members was ready to jump. Talked him down. Been at weddings, been at funerals, been at births, all sorts of stuff. We know how life-changing what we have can be if done properly. And that's the caveat, if done properly. And my issue over the last few years has been this bit of neglect that a lot of our gyms have on the basics of what CrossFit offers. Eat meats, vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Keep intake to that supports body exercise and not body fat. That's the first paragraph, is about nutrition, and it's the bottom of our pyramid of CrossFit. What CrossFit is, we've got nutrition right at the bottom, metabolic conditioning above that, gymnastics, so body movement above that, weightlifting and throwing above that, and then right at the top of that pyramid is sport, the expression of everything that we've built up through there. So sport should be the last thing that we encourage our members to be doing, having had that build up across that. And over the years, we've neglected that, because the sexy stuff is the sport, because people want to come in, and there's a younger generation coming through that want to move quicker, faster, stronger, which is really cool. But there's been this neglect about nutrition and metabolic conditioning. And I genuinely believe that's where High Rocks has picked up so many people. We neglect the longer term, the VO2 max testing, the nutrition side of it, and the staying relatively smaller, which goes hand in hand with better nutrition and with metabolic conditioning. I think that's where they've picked up a lot of the people that don't necessarily want to do CrossFit in its essence.
How would you address some of that, the demand for mental health benefits? Because I think already just being part of a community alone, even unrelated to exercises, is bloody fantastic for your longevity. Then just being a gym member of any gym, no matter how much you're going, reduces your mortality. There's one study, I think 25%, regardless of whether it's a CrossFit community. When you put those together, I think there should be a lot of benefits. How do you kind of magnify that, do you think?
Well, so this is where people like yourself come in, amongst other really good assets that we've got in our community that's building at the moment. I think our coaches and our affiliates need to get better educated. Rather than just getting people in, briefing them at a whiteboard, telling them to move faster and heavier and then go home or have a barbecue after every 3 months at a community event. We need to professionalize our coaches and our gyms. We need to up our game as gyms. We need to educate. We need to sit with people down. We need to set goals. It's more in line with what PTs do. So John and I both PT predominantly. We've both got X amount of clients. The relationship that we have with those clients is, for lack of a better word, intimate. We know everything that we can about that person. We do a thorough investigation along the way. We psychologically assess them. We make sure we check in every day. We're adapting their programming. We're doing everything that we can. That is very high value, and not everyone's going to be able to afford that. So this is where it comes into it.
Yeah.
Rather than paying, I don't know, if you think about 2 PT sessions a week, programming all the way along, nutrition, let's say it's £500 a month for all of that. Not many people in our community are going to be able to afford £500 a month towards their training and their longevity. Right? What we have is this community-based system that people can pay less. So let's say it's an average of 150 a month for a CrossFit membership. They have the opportunity to come for an hour a day, 5 times a week, let's say, if it's optimal, to be part of that culture that is driving change, hard work, discipline, part of a community, accountability. It's driving all the hallmarks and the markers that you need to then have accountability yourself to make changes outside of the gym. So the other 23 hours of the gym, they're encouraging behaviors. Like we've talked about this quite a lot. I've never known of a theft at a CrossFit gym. Car keys, a phone, an iPad, a wedding ring, a £10 note on the side. I've never heard of a theft at a CrossFit gym. And the reason for that is because the type of people that come to our gyms work for what they get. They don't think, they're not shortcutting, they're working for things. And so they know, and this is the other thing, we need people to get in the door first. And this is where this new ad campaign, we've had a few people kicking back about it, saying it excludes a lot of people. It's saying, don't come to us. But where do we draw the line? Because it's not going to be for everyone. Anyone can do it, but it's not for everyone. But my answer to your question, we get people in the gym is the first step. We draw them into really good marketing and advertising and word of mouth. We then educate our coaches and our affiliates, so everyone is talking about the right kind of stuff. And then thirdly, we give them the best hour of their day so they keep coming back. And if we do those 3 things, I think we can make a massive dent. And we've got so much data now from the last 20 years of affiliates to suggest that what we are doing is making people healthier and allowing them to live better for longer, not just longer. And that's the beauty of what we can do at CrossFit gyms. Not saying all of them do, but that's what we can offer at the gyms. But like I said, that education piece is where people like yourself and your business come in, because it's all well and good passing your level 1 and then just coaching for 5 years, battering people in the gym, and then nothing. Not educating yourself, not bettering your coaching standards, not seeing yourself as more than someone that can just teach someone how to do a thruster. You can make a massive impact on that person's life. You're more than a coach for thrusters. And that's what our coaches can do. We can be excellence, you know?
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think intimate is the right word. Good coaches do have an intimate relationship with their clients, and we work with a lot of people that have come to us either from golf clubs or not from a gym, so they don't have a gym membership, and maybe they're not even that's a big red flag. What's your exercise? We do a longevity assessment, and what's your exercise? And they say, oh, I go for a 30-minute walk every now and then. That's like, big red beacon. We need to get this person resistance training, ideally in the gym. And the ones that either go straight into the gym on our suggestion and maybe get a PT to take them under our wing, or some of them need a little bit of building up to that, get the confidence to do that. But the ones that eventually do that, that's the big transformations, because you've got someone in person who gets to know you, intimate relationship, and it transcends more than just, a YouTube tutorial, how to perform this exercise, and then a ChatGPT, how to program it. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. What kind of assessments do you do when, like, someone, if I was to say go on your website and book a consultation, what kind of assessments do we do from the get-go? What's the process?
So the process is we generally work, so we do a 2-week trial, but generally we work in 3-month programs. But at the first instance, you would just book a call, video consultation. We'd have 30 minutes. It'd be either myself or one of the 4 longevity doctors. And we kind of dive into your routine, your 5 pillars of longevity, what your goals are. So a lot of people have, they might want to put on muscle mass. They want to reduce their dementia risk. They've got a family history of cancer. They want to optimize something. They've got sleep issues. So we can tailor our 5 pillars towards you. And then we kind of make a plan. And then if we go ahead, send you a health kit. I think one of the biggest, most impactful things that we send to patients is a live sugar monitor. So kind of, Jake, you mentioned before the HbA1c. Essentially, what the HbA1c is, it's taking your red blood cell and looking how much sugar is in this red blood cell. And then based on that, right, you're in the normal range, you're in the pre-diabetic, you're in the diabetic range. My problem with that, so again, it's not as bad as the BMI. So HbA1c is a lot more useful than the BMI. But my problem with it, and just relying on a snapshot HbA1c, is let's say you and I, Jon, have exactly the same live sugars, minute to minute, day to day. If your red blood cells are regenerated 10 days quicker than mine, so even though our metabolic health, everything else is exactly the same, if your red blood cells are regenerated, they've had less time to mop up the sugar. So your doctor, your HbA1c is going to say, hey, well done, you're in a normal range, you're well into normal, carry on what you're doing. My doctor's going to call me up and say, oh, you're pre-diabetic, you need to avoid these kinds of foods, which maybe you don't agree with. That advice. So what this allows us to do, the live sugar monitors, is tracking your sugars in real time, get an average off those 2 weeks. Usually they last around 2 weeks. And so that's kind of not, that's going to have a high level of accuracy. And the other thing that we can do with these live sugar monitors, the beauty of tracking your real-time data, is also the tracking what we call the glucose variability. So essentially how much does your sugars look like a roller coaster? So, okay, your level is X, but if it's kind of always around X, nice and smooth, that's quite nice. Probably, yeah, exactly, smooth and stable. You're not going to have energy crashes. You're not going to have mood swings necessarily. You're not going to have disturbed sleep from low sugars. And that's all the short-term stuff. And, when we have a spike, I wouldn't want people to get too worried about one-off spike, but generally somebody that's very spiky is going to have more insulin release. It's going to be on that curve of insulin resistance. That's hand in hand with belly fat specifically. Insulin's great for adding on fat, but specifically belly fat. So we talked about metrics. That's something else we send people, tape measure. Let's just measure, not like a tailor necessarily, just around your belly button. Let's measure it in centimeters. And we do that every week, and we want the number going down. So a beautiful story is your weight is staying similar, your performance is going up, but your waist is shrinking.
Your waist is coming down. Yeah,
exactly.
That's exactly how I treat clients as well. I get my bloods done every 3 months, okay? And while you were talking there, I went and pulled up from 2 years ago. My HbA1c was 46, and it's now, I got it done last month, and it's 27.
Oh wow!
Right? Yeah, so it was like right up high, but I've lost about 60 pounds in that past 2 years.
Oh wow! Okay.
Would you say that's like a worthwhile metric to look at every 3 months, or is it not worth?
So it comes down to the individual. Firstly, I'll say that's a huge one. So whatever my critiques of HbA1c,
I was just thinking, I was like, oh, while you're talking about that, I'm going to look at what the difference in mine is over the last 2 years. Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. So you've definitely slowed down the aging process. You added years to your life, reduced your dementia, cancer risk. That's huge. So for context, you said you're 46, 48 and above.
Yeah, that's what, when I seen it, I was like, fuck, I need to do something about that.
Yeah. So 48 and above is diabetes. 42, again, this is a spectrum. It's very arbitrary what we call diabetes, what we call pre-diabetes. So in the US, they're a little bit more sensitive. They say 39 is pre-diabetes. In the UK, we say 42 is pre-diabetes. But in the 20s, you're killing it. You're killing it. Really, really lovely to see. In terms of how often you'd want to do it, so it comes down to your personal preferences. And considering different things. So I can tell you what I do and all of our doctors do. We put on a live sugar monitor every 3 or 4 months and kind of assess that. And often actually you do get an alarm bell, a wake up call. So usually my sugars are very good. And, I can have something quite naughty first thing in the morning, not very often, but if I was to, my sugars are usually quite flat. But then going through a period of stress where I'm building this business, preparing for stuff, maybe not sleeping the best, maybe my cortisol's up, my sugars in real time, I'm seeing it's like a different person. So we can't underplay cortisol and sleep. So, bringing it back to what we were talking about earlier, Jake, with elite athletes, we had a gym owner who approached us for a B2B relationship. And very commonly, they want to get a taster. So they go on like a mini 2-week version of the program, get an idea what we do, put on a live sugar monitor. This guy's in phenomenal shape, doing weighted muscle ups, trying to improve my form.
About him.
Yeah, unbelievable physique. Probably looks like you, to be honest, Jake. And he was pre-diabetic.
Pardon me.
And he's in his mid-30s. So he never in his wildest dreams would have thought that. I wouldn't have guessed that. And so we can highlight that, and then we can kind of give him ways to think about how we can address his cortisol.
Yeah. It's I've just looked at mine actually for my last bloods. I mean, these were 6 months ago, and it's 27 as well. So it's definitely a good, good indicator of Jon and I's health. So that's fine.
Yeah, they're both cracking. I wouldn't be worried about that at all. So
no.
On the lower level, you could just do that every year. I wouldn't want you to necessarily keep worrying about your average.
So cool. One thing I just saw, we were talking about, like, I'll come back to how I think a good point here would be to see. Okay, so we know what you offer, and we know kind of what your take on things and what you would like to see. If I am a CrossFit affiliate, or I'm a gym owner, because some of our viewers are from the strongman community and outside High Rocks community. If I'm a gym or a coach,
I was going to say, not even just a gym, but even like a coach like myself that's got like an online how could we utilize your service?
We work with a lot of coaches that do online and in person, boxing coaches, tennis coaches, golf coaches. So we work with gyms in 3 ways. The idea is we want to magnify your impact and bring longevity doctor services to your current offering. So first wave is bolt-on services. So in addition to your gym membership, or in addition to somebody who's coming to your PT sessions, we can have longevity doctor services where they can log online on Zoom, whether that's monthly or quarterly, with a longevity doctor, have their metabolic data tracked and analyzed remotely so they know exactly where they are. And then depending on how much time we get with them, we can really dive into their 5 pillars of longevity. So that's insulin sensitivity and hormone health. Muscle mass, you guys are going to be working on for them. Heart health, maybe we can see if there's times outside of your sessions. Because even if someone's coming 4 hours a week, 4 PT sessions a week, there's a lot they can be doing for their heart health outside of that. And they should be, especially if it's not going to cost them much time or effort. 4th pillar is sleep. So some people say, look, I sleep like a champion. I think, all right, I'm jealous. We'll carry on. We'll skip that. But often we can even claw in an extra half an hour of sleep. One crazy stat, when clocks move forward and we lose an hour of sleep, on average, in the UK, that very next day, the number of heart attacks go up by about 25%. So that's high as that. It's crazy, right? So that's 1 hour, 1 day, just one metric, heart attacks. So if we're working with someone and we can add 45 minutes, an hour of sleep to their nightly routine on a daily basis, that's changing their whole health trajectory. And that's not even something that is even on their mind. So, and then the 5th one is brain chemistry, mental health, optimizing dopamine, cortisol. Sometimes cortisol is a problem. Sometimes we're trying to optimize dopamine, make these habits. You could go on ChatGPT, say, here's my bloods, here's my scans, give me a longevity protocol. They give you a million things to do. How do you integrate that into your routine and then gain kind of progression?
And so that raises 2 things. Firstly, I was talking about this at the gym the other day. What we offer in the gym is a little bit of companionship. In-person training. We will never, and I swear by this, and I stand by this years after we've been talking about our jobs being taken over by online coaches, although Jon and I are both online coaches as well. There's something that you get in person that you will never get doing your own program with headphones in the gym on your own. It's different. It's a totally different type of training. Some people thrive in that, mostly men, on their own, lone wolf, Rocky soundtrack going in their ear, thinking they're the double R Danny doing shrugs and bicep curls. Great, you do you. but eventually you're going to get to a point where you realize you need help and assistance. What we offer in our types of gyms and with our training gives you a lot more of that. It gives you accountability. And ChatGPT, as great as it is, Jon and I both use it daily for our work, but it will never take over from that in person kind of experience.
It doesn't have the insight. It doesn't have
No.
it doesn't have the experience to draw back on. It's got whatever we feed it.
I think it's even bigger than that. I think one day it might have the insight, it might have the artificial experience, but I think something that even 50 years from now, where AI is beyond our wildest dreams, you will never be able to replace the human connection. And that's beyond insight. That's just human to human, and people will always care about their health, and they'll always value. Well, at least some people always value human connection.
And my friend works for Amazon in their AI team, right? So I actually train him, so I'm his PT. We talk about this a lot. We've had a lot of interesting chats, and he gives this talk where he talks about the London carriage drivers in 19th century, and the motor car was invented, the steel course, and they petitioned against it coming to London because they were worried that they would lose their jobs. They wouldn't be able to keep up, and they'd lose their jobs, and how would they afford income? And then they soon cottoned on that someone has to drive the cars. So they relearned, and they learned how to drive the cars. So it's upskilling. It's learning how to use this new technology to our advantage. And that's the thing with AI. It's a language model. All it is, you draw out of it the information that is available around, and it just puts it into a nice, neatly formed package that we can take from it. That will never replace what humans offer in person. It can't. It cannot do that. So from a job security perspective and the gym's perspective, we're fine. People don't come to our gyms to get the programming necessarily, because they can do that online. They don't need the programming. They come for the community, the culture, the music, the vibe that's going on. And it's the same reason people go to nightclubs instead of dancing around in the living room. You know, they're getting the same thing, but it's just no one around. And sometimes you're going to be in the mood for that. But going back to, another thing, it talks about the branding and you know, how we get people into CrossFit and the ad campaigns recently. And Steve, who you were on the Fight Show with Steve, I think last week.
Great time.
Talking about that, great lad, what a good friend of ours. Talking about the adverts and the ad campaigns and saying if it's supposed to exclude people. I think I'm probably right in saying this maybe for you as well, is that it is for anyone, but it's not for everyone. Not everyone's going to want your services, and that's absolutely fine. That's a free market. That's the whole purpose of what we do. We're trying to make ourselves better, and so more people do want to do it. The issue that I have, and again, this may well be accurate to you as well. I think the people that really need our services, the people that most need CrossFit, that most need the longevity doctor, are the people that aren't necessarily approached to use it. They're not the ones that we're advertising towards. They're not the ones that we're addressing and trying to coax in. They're not the people that our adverts are coming to. They're not the people that it would appear will come to us. And we've got this phrase, forging elite fitness. That's what we pride ourselves on. The word forging is really important there, because people haven't got it when they come in. They haven't got it every day. We're making them that way.
It's a process.
It is a process, and we're taking people that haven't got it, and we're making people that do have it. So this is the murky waters that we tread with this ad campaign, where we're saying it's for, and I totally agree, it's supposed to exclude some people. But here's the thing, as a gym owner, we want as many people in that gym as we can. And the people that we really, truly can make the difference to are the people that these ads exclude at the moment. They need to come up with they need to come up with it here to take the jump to then come into our gyms. We need to make ourselves equipped and fully equipped and educated to help those people when they do come to our gyms. And it's tools like yours that if our coaches haven't got a clue about longevity, all they know about is how to get someone to go quicker with Fran and how to get them a heavier deadlift
Or to squat to depth.
or to squat to depth, and they're harassing people about their squat depth. I know what that indicates doing a full depth squat. I know that. I preach it, but it's not the be all and end all. I want people to live longer. And if we can change their behaviors to live longer and healthier, chances are they'll make that decision themselves to go full depth if we're educating them enough. It's all about how we educate people and how we approach people and how open we are to different types of people. And what your service offers. So my question there is, I'm a coach at a gym. What does working with you look like if I'm a coach?
So you would continue seeing your client on a however often you're seeing them, and in addition to that, essentially we talked about this with Steve, the golden triad. So you got the client, you got the PT in the gym, and then you got the longevity doctor working in that golden triad. So essentially, we want to have that structure in place. Right now, it's coach with their client, and then maybe they go to see their doctor, and maybe that doctor isn't interested at all. That's probably the best case scenario. Or maybe that doctor says, oh, you should wind down your strenuous exercise, or you should be careful of this, or something that's maybe not the most helpful. Maybe that doctor isn't, is practicing defensively, practicing from a lack of experience. So we have this kind of forged golden triad where we're going to work together. So in terms of between the client and the PT, that's largely going to be the same. The only thing that might be different, if the patient consents, is that we are going to be able to share some information. Some people have a WhatsApp group. I'm very mindful of two things. One, not to give the gym owner or the PT extra homework, an extra kind of to-do list. We're an additional service, not a part-time service that's going to give you instructions necessarily. But then on the other side of it, we do have some PTs that want us to get a little bit more involved in terms of what we're doing, what metrics we're tracking, what kind of movements we're looking at. But I think, coaches, PTs, they're the specialist in the second pillar, the fighting sarcopenia. On our side of things, we would work with them remotely. We would send them a health kit to track things that maybe we're not tracking on the gym floor. One of the things is your live sugar monitor, get a deep dive what's going on beneath the surface. Look through the other pillars of longevity. So if we can improve sleep, maybe recover better, maybe be able to come to the gym even more often. If that's a limiting factor, recovering, then we can accelerate that. Looking at your mood, is somebody feeling like it's a drag to show up? Are they feeling like they want to cancel a lot of the time? Well, we've got the time. Let's address that. What's going on? Is it just, any effort always does feel difficult, so sometimes you don't want to do it? Is it something natural that you need to kind of power through? Or is there something underlying going on, whether it's your sleep, your relationship, your perception of your life? So we're maybe not changing your whole life, but changing your perception or making small tweaks. So then we can kind of track these beautiful things that we're tracking and work together as a team. So the overall transformation is always better when somebody has got a PT in person to take them under their wing.
And I guess, and this is going to build on what Steve Miller's just said. I'm 60. I'll not be visiting another doctor unless they're reattaching a limb. A road I've chosen to take. Now, there's the word for me, chosen, right? Chosen. So we have a long-standing culture, and this may well be in the US as well. But in the UK, I'm talking from our experience and my experience working with people and my parents and my grandparents. There is this underlying, overwhelming trust in the medical service over here, and whatever the doctor says goes. It's gospel. It's we're gonna do that now. People, the last 5 years have sort of started to change people's take on all of that and how accurate that is and that kind of thing for one reason or another. And I think people are getting smarter now. More information's out there. We've got more places that are offering alternative advice. Which can be sometimes dangerous, but where there's services like yourself, I guess one of the issues that might be having to address is when you speak to a client and you'll say, This is what we recommend. This is probably the best course of action. This is what we say. Statins aren't great for you. We can change, and cholesterol's not a bad thing. HDL's not a horrendous thing. And LDL is what you blah, 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 blah. We know all this now. Changing people's opinions on medical advice that they've heard for 50 years is probably a very difficult conversation to have. And not winning that conversation, getting people to choose what we now know is a better option. And it's old people over, I would probably say 55, 60. They've probably got this real, it's like the news. They'll read the paper and whatever the BBC News says, that's correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you found that at all?
Yeah, I think there are a few different types of people. So we've got one kind of person that is, the BBC News. What's the Guardian telling us to take? What's the story that I've got to buy into wholeheartedly? Tell everyone to trust the science and just question nothing. So for that first kind of person, good luck. I can't really, I don't waste my energy. The second kind of person is, I think this is a growing number of people now that are hyper skeptical, maybe never been so skeptical of, not necessarily doctors, but big pharma, big food industry, media, mainstream media, and they're just don't know what to do with them, with all of this information, all of this misinformation. And a big part of what we like to do is, some people say, tell me exactly everything to do and I'll do it. Okay, that's fine. We can do that. But what's more interesting is teaching people how to think. I don't know where that quote is from, but basically teaching people to be their own doctor. That's what I think everyone should be doing, is how you should be your own doctor. And then obviously life-saving treatment, you're losing a limb, go and see a real.
Yeah, because we're pretty lucky in the UK that the NHS is like, if we need to go to A&E, we can go to A&E. Like that is the beauty of the NHS. Like, it's got its faults, but we don't have to pay. If I was to slice my hand open in the kitchen when I go in there tonight, I can go A&E and I don't have to pay any money to go and get stitched up and whatnot. But
absolutely, yeah, we're really lucky for anything firefighting. I think we are very lucky with the NHS. And then bringing back the third kind of person I'm seeing more and more is not necessarily the diehard, follow the guidelines, and not necessarily the hyper skeptic, but somebody that is a bit confused, doesn't really know what to buy into, whether cholesterol is important or not, whether a statin is necessary or not, or whether everything they're doing right now, which feels like a reasonable amount of effort, is that getting them the best results. So there, I kind of like to educate. So we don't just educate PTs doing seminars for PTs, but also for people, patients, clients, whether that's in longevity masterclasses, events, or just through the program, educating them on how to think, what to consider. And again, similar to if you ask me, should I run 6 times a week? Well, if that, what are you trying to optimize for? So, what are you trying to optimize for when it comes to your heart health? We can make a plan, and you, with informed consent. I'm all about informed consent. You can't make a decision if you don't know what the pros and the cons are. And that's not always easy, because there is a culture now of signing blank checks, which essentially, when I say that, I mean, you take a tablet, chemical X, there's a bunch of side effects that we know about, and there's for sure a whole bunch of side effects that are not known right now. So if you are going to go and take that, you're signing a blank check. Maybe that is part of the answer for you, but I think the start of the conversation shouldn't be there. Let's start with the 5 pillars of longevity. What can you optimize? What are you worried about? Where are the big gaps? Let's bulletproof your protocol. Trial and error some things, make it feel easy. Keep going to see your PT. If you're only going once a week, can we go more? Maybe we can. Build momentum, optimize brain chemistry, mental health, habits, and then let's see where we are. And then how necessary is that statin or that flu jab or whatever it might be?
So from a end user perspective, so say, if for example, I want to use Thrive Doctor. Obviously, I'd imagine I'd go through the website, book a consultation, have a consultation, and then if all systems go, what does the business model look like? So, am I paying a monthly subscription? Am I paying per consultation? Am I paying for, how does it work?
Yeah, so after your free longevity strategy consultation, if we want to go ahead with it, we can either do a 2-week trial where you pay for 2 weeks and you do a mini 2-week program if you like. And often people use that as a stepping stone to go onto a 3-month program, or you can go straight away get the health kit for the full 3 months, and you can either pay up front or on a monthly basis. And you get the health kit, and then you meet with us either on a weekly or fortnightly basis. And we kind of go down these 5 pillars. And the key thing is there is back and forth. In an ideal world, and we did look at having offices, but we've got patients everywhere now, and just for convenience, log in, log off. So I think video consultations is not face-to-face, but it's also not telephone. It's somewhere in the middle.
Mm. And are you predominantly UK based? Is it something you offer internationally as well because of the remote side of stuff?
Exactly. So it's very easy for us to work remotely. So we do have patients across the globe. Our 4 doctors are all UK trained medical doctors. We're all based in London. So that is where more than half of our patients are. But we do work across Europe and Asia as well.
Oh, lovely.
Nice.
Steve Miller again writes, as I mentioned to people that I've never had a colonoscopy, haven't been to an eye doctor in 30 years. I do, however, visit a dentist. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. But yeah, it's not. Do you know what? It's nice to know, and I often get reminded, how it's not even fortunate. I am surrounded daily by people working hard, looking at their health and improving themselves and being accountable. I am surrounded. I don't know any smokers at all. I'm fortunate. None of my peers drink alcohol, really. They might have the odd drink now and again. They're all healthy. They're all, having kids and growing families. They're all hard workers. Most of them train at 6 a.m. because they want to get out and work hard. I'm surrounded by these people, and I have been for well over a decade.
People are obsessed with the penis doctor.
They are. We made a joke a little while ago that we're going to get a penis doctor on, and all of a sudden, because it says doctor on the name, people assume it's the penis doctor. If you know one, we'll have one. I'm sure you might know one. I think it's urologist, isn't it? That would be Kate Commander.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it and every now and again, I go into the real world, and I'm very fortunate as well where I live on the Isle of Man. It's very rural culture. There's half the people here are farmers, the other half are bloody fishermen. So the air is crystal clear. There's no pollution. There's no crime. Leave my house door open at night. The postman walks in and puts the post on the side in the kitchen in the mornings. Like, it's just real old school. They're about 50 years behind the UK, right? Whenever I go into a cafe, we went to Greece a couple of years ago with my family, and I smelled a cigarette, and I was like, oh, fucking, I forgot what that smells like. I've forgotten what it's like to be around real people. And I often forget that, that the world isn't this beacon of health, this bastion of health, because I'm quite privileged.
You've just got proximity bias of like the people that you've surrounded yourself with, but I think the vast majority of the UK isn't like that. And sadly, I think the vast majority of people that probably want to be healthier, that go into, the doctor's office, will quite happily take the pill because it's the quick thing, isn't it? So it's about how to integrate that kind of behavioral change into this kind of like service as well, because a lot of people probably are coming, yes, they want to be healthier, but they don't want, like, they don't want to put in that effort. Makes sense.
And we're seeing that more and more in the rise of people requesting GLP-1s, the quick fix.
Yeah, we spoke about that a lot.
And it's unfortunate. I think a lot of people think that it has to be really difficult. They have to use a lot of willpower on a daily basis and kind of really grind. I think what you've done, Jake's amazing, is that you've taken it one step further. So I always teach people, look, make your environment optimized for you. Don't try and go uphill every day, because most days things are tough.
Remove barriers is something I tell people all the time.
Exactly. Remove the barriers for the good stuff and create barriers for the difficult stuff, and we can work with that. You've taken it to the next level with your inner circle.
his whole life.
That's fantastic. It's going to make it easier for you. I think the key is, what do we do for people that haven't optimized it to that degree, and they do have these poisons in their life. And I always say, look, I'm not here to tell you not to drink. You know about alcohol. I'm not here to tell you not to smoke. You know that's not breaking the informed consent. You know the score, and you're engaging in your poisons. What really keeps me up at night is where somebody is buying into a myth that they don't necessarily enjoy something. They're doing it every day, and it's taking years off their life. And that's something we kind of find a lot of the time. That could either be from the longevity assessment, whether it's their questionnaire that is quite kind of qualitative from their words, or from their life sugar monitors. We see these random spikes. What's going on? Oh, I'm doing this. Why are you doing that? Because it's healthy, right? Well, does this look healthy?
I've talked about this in the past, and we've laughed about it. There's this term smoke and mirrors, and in our job, I've done it for a long enough time now where when I'm talking to my clients, I'll just say, can I be honest? This is just faff. Like it's just word salad. Like you're saying, and people go in onto the data because they create this smoke and mirror effect to hide the essential truth and the objective fact that this shit is so simple. It's really simple. And that the people that they make create this big smoke and mirror effect where they say it's really complicated, just like people saying it's really expensive to eat healthy and clean. Rubbish, absolute twaddle. I can take you. My kids know, they're 6 and 8. They know that that's rubbish. They cook their own meals now in the kitchen with my wife. They know how to make really healthy, informed decisions because we've educated them on it. And it's people create their own problems so that, and you hear it in language, it's the way that people talk. They convince themselves of these realities that don't really truly exist. It's subjective, and it's the crossover between objective into subjective. And what I see your role as, just like a coach in the gym, is dispelling the subjectivity and clearing the air of that smoke and saying, here's the truth. Here's the objective fact. These 5 things, if you can nail these pillars, you're gonna live longer. And that's the reality of it. And if you want the gold star, if you want the North Star, you want the straightest possible path, that route to living longer, the closer you can live to these 5 things, the easier and faster it's going to be for you to do that. Now, priorities are a thing, just like we said about elite sport. If you want to deviate away from that line, that's fine. That's on you. That's your choice. But you're going to make an informed choice. And we're going to tell you all the evidence that we have to suggest that that's probably not a great idea. But if you want to do it informed. And I like one of the biggest things that I like in my job is when people go click and you see this veil go boom, gone. And they're like, oh, okay, I see the truth now. I see the reality of the situation. And that's when the changes happen. That's where, like, Jon had a client, first few months, it was all, oh, well, this, that, and the other. Oh, well, this is hurting. Oh, well. And then he had a moment and it was like click, epiphany time. And then 6 months later, he's lost 20 kilos.
Sometimes that takes years for people to kind of get to that point because they've told themselves these stories for maybe 30 years. So me telling them for 3 weeks isn't going to make any difference to them. That's where you'd need to just be the educator. And it's not to shame anybody. It's to give them that, we're talking about making informed choices. And once they see other people doing it, and once they see it for themselves a little bit, then it's like, that's it. Then they can make that kind of sustainable kind of change.
You've nailed that.
Yeah. There's definitely no shame in it. There's so much conflicting advice, conflicting evidence, guidelines. Doctors themselves are confused about what they think is, there's no unanimous way of doing things. So I think, education is the biggest factor. If you can, and like you said, Jon, to debunk their myths, and that can take more than 3 weeks. If you've got a medical badge, sometimes they listen to you a little bit more. If you've got a medical badge plus their live biochemistry to show how some of the changes are improving, that speeds things on a little bit more. So it's all about kind of breaking those myths and then getting progression. And their trajectory, I think people are always amazed that exactly what you said, Jake. It is simple once you get it and put it into your routine. It doesn't have to be an uphill battle. And usually this is a kind of a big pride point I look for in our feedback, whether it's my patients or our other doctors' patients, is what was your perceived effort in terms of your overall longevity, your overall health before and then after, and where's your satisfaction? And it's not always correlated, actually. You can try a lot. It sounds like you're a super, super clean lifestyle, Jake. But, you know, I always say to people who aren't necessarily like that, you'll be surprised what you can get away with if you get it right most of the time.
And that's the thing. That's the tricky thing. Like, you get like James Smith and you know, other online influencers that, and I've got a backstory about him. I grew up about a mile away from him, and he anyway. So I've known him for probably about 12, 13 years. They do say, if you want a bar of chocolate, have a bar of chocolate. If you want to eat Kellogg's cornflakes in the morning or Frosties, have Frosties. If you want to do this and it's calories in, calories out, blah, 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 blah. And they talk like that. They talk from a point of 12% body fat where they've done all that, the history of hard work, and they're there at the moment, and they can do that. If you get someone that is on the start of a weight loss journey that is changing behaviors, probably don't want them reaching for a chocolate bar at night before they go to bed.
And that's where we're at High Rocks at the weekend. Well, not the weekend, not even the weekend yet. We were at High Rocks the other day, and people will carb load for days prior to, a High Rocks, and it's like, I get that for someone that's maybe an elite athlete that's, going to go a sub hour, they're needing to, utilize carb sources and whatnot. But the guy that's 260 pounds carrying 80 pounds of extra body fat doesn't need extra glycogen stores. They've got plenty glycogen.
Yeah, their liver's properly soaked up, isn't it? So and this all comes back to what you said a minute ago. Jon nailed it with what he said, and it's feeding directly into what you said earlier, Doctor. It was, you do what other people, you see monkey do. If I'm in a gym where, if I'm a newbie, right, and I've seen an advert and I've gone, do you know what? I'm going to give this a go, right? I go into the CrossFit gym, I see the front desk, I've signed up, I walk into my first class, I look around and I'm like, whoa, there's people that look a little bit like me. There's people that look nothing bloody like me. They must be elite athletes. And then you start warming up and you see them chatting and, okay, cool. I'm like, yeah, I can get into this. And then they start doing some strength work and you see people developing it with a box squat. And then you see the guy and the woman in the corner screaming and shouting, doing 5x5 with ungodly numbers. And you're like, wow. And then you see the workout at the end and they're all on the floor and you're stood there, not on the floor. And you're like, oh, maybe I can work a bit harder. Why are they on the floor? And you do that enough times and you start copying. And you start changing behaviors and you realize, this is how it works. And then you enjoy it. And then you start making friends. And then you ask people what the meal they had. You hear them talking about a meal that they had. And you hear them about a course that they've been on. And then there's this competition down the road. And you start to being in that environment. It does help you change your behaviors because you learn from other people and seeing other people doing stuff. And it works the other way around. If you've got a bunch of friends that are on the corner drinking, what was it? That cider that was big in the 90s that people used to drink, those 5-litre bottles in the pub. Yeah, Scrumpy Jack. White Lightning. That was, if you're on the corner and you see people drink White Lightning and smoking, and you think, oh, well, probably
I was definitely doing that.
Yeah, like you learn from your peers, but if you surround yourself with people that are really on it and changing their behaviors for the better and trying to live longer, chances are you're probably going to pick up a few things that are going to help.
And on you go.
That's right.
I'll jump in after. No, I was going to say that's one of the things I do. As soon as I have a new client sign up to my service, they get integrated into the community group, and then I always welcome into the group, and I ask everybody else in the group to share, like, what's one of the most important things you learned when you first started, or what's something you wish you did when you first started that you do now that's like made the biggest impact in your like journey. And then there's 30 odd people sharing what they did, and then that person's like, oh shit, I could do all that right now. because these people have got the results.
Yeah.
And they're saying this is what made the biggest impact to my journey. And then they can be like, oh, I could do that. I could do that. And then they start seeing things that they could do themselves, make those changes without me having to be the only person to say, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. It's they're seeing what other people they've got the result and they're in a similar circumstance to that person. And it's not out of reach, if that makes sense.
Exactly. I mean, throughout human history, we've been learning in communities. We are social creatures. That is the best way to learn, hands down. And there's a lot of evidence for this growing, actually, especially when it comes to lifestyle longevity interventions. We've trialed online group reverse diabetes groups, and people, exactly what you said, they learn from each other. They're learning in groups, something that you might not ask, somebody else asks, that now you are interested, it's provoked something else that you've thought about, and it's hammered points home. Often we need to be reminded more often than we need to be told. So in a community, there's just more interactions. You're going to get further, get there quicker.
Yeah. Is that something you do within your? Have you said you tried like a WhatsApp group, or have you got like a clients like community that people can be a part of? Are they like helping each other? Is there like education, like further education for them, like within like an education hub or anything like that?
So I mean, I'm kind of all in on this whole longevity industry. So I'm kind of trying to categorize my time across the board. So essentially, outside of partnering with PTs and gym owners, where we have bolt-on services, we also, on the higher end, the extreme tier is where we're working kind of one-to-one, kind of quite regular, very close-knit, and that's very personalized. And then on the other side of things, I'm very interested in bringing this as more of a community and kind of a lower access point that maybe doesn't require doctor input, because that's our biggest cost, is the doctor time. But we're looking at developing an app. We've spoken to more than 5 app developers. I hate them all so far, but we're going to basically create an app where we can have a good community. And I'm a big believer in people learning from each other, as we are in terms of groups. We've piloted it's small groups, it's between 5 to 10, and they're for people that we try and align people similarly. So a lot of them are kind of mid-age, maybe diabetic, and we're kind of working together all along the same kind of trajectory. I don't want someone who's
so you're like a subgroup. Yeah,
exactly. The challenge with that is that we're a relatively small team, and we don't have a list of 50 people on the wait list. So piloting and categorizing everyone at the right time who's similarly minded and available at the right time is not always easy. So I think the key is keep doing the magic we're doing with gyms and develop more gym relationships. I love this like a lot, so I'm always going to be looking after my individual private list of patients, and then we'll have kind of an app which is a much lower cost point where we can have a kind of a community.
Obviously, with like cost, like being is obviously going to be a factor for that'll probably limit, a part of the population. What things for like, someone that's maybe in their late 30s going into their early 40s, would you say is like, what would you say is like things that they could be looking out for, like the top, the 3 biggest like red flags for them, like for longevity? And then what things would you suggest them doing like straight away to kind of reverse that?
I think it depends where they are. So different people are doing different things really well and completely ignoring other things. So, obviously weight training is maybe a big thing. I think walking and daylight is massively underrated. I think a sense of community, being around people, ideally screen-free, is hugely beneficial. And even better if you can do some of these things together. Go for a walk with someone, even better, training with someone in a community. And then sleep is a big one. If you are just somebody, my cousin's an investment banker and he swears that he can get by for 5 hours sleep, doesn't listen to me, doesn't listen to the evidence. I send him articles every now and then, but he's not interested. Consider that you do need sleep. And if you do have a life that's so busy and you're so passionate about what you do, don't be afraid don't underrate. Even adding 30 minutes to your nightly routine could do wonders. It's not all or nothing. I think that's a big point as well, is don't have, and that's something I personally used to adopt is the all or nothing approach. I'd be in the gym, I'd be tracking everything I'm eating, every rep, every set. I'm tracking my sleep, everything's going well, and then a medical school exam, everything's out the window, frozen pizzas, locked inside, 3 months, I don't see the sun. That's tragic. Those are the days that kill you. So don't be all or nothing. Don't have 0 days. If something's worth doing, I think I got this from Jordan Peterson. He said, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. I'm such a big believer in that. Rather than aim high and say, right, I'm going to go and do an hour run, and then I'm going to go and do my workout in the gym, and then I'm going to cook a healthy meal, and then just right, what can I get away with doing? That's just doing some burpees and a walk. At least is some of that benefit. It's always the law of diminishing returns. And then from a brain chemistry point of view, you might do a set of burpees because you can't be bothered to go to the gym. But now you've got a dopamine boost. We know dopamine is the neurotransmitter of reward and motivation. Before you know it, you're in the car on the way to the gym. So I've lived that, and I've trained people through this. And that's a big belief I have is aim low and forgive yourself if you fail.
Yeah, I think that we joked about this the other day online, semi-joked about the fact that things only matter and have value as much as you give them it, and how much you value it. And people get in the habit of chasing things. And I was talking to my kid about this earlier on. He's all of a sudden he's found Pokemon cards, right? Pokemon cards are everything. It's like every wakes up, can I play Pokemon cards? I want Pokemon cards. And I got fed up and I thought, right, how can I use Inception to get him to get out of thinking about Pokemon cards? And I was like, should we go deeper? So why do you want these Pokemon cards? He's like, oh, because they're cool. I was like, why? He's like, so I can trade them. I was like, for what? He goes, other Pokemon cards. I said, right, so let's just say you get the best Pokemon cards you can get. Then what do you do? And he's like, look at them. And I was like, and then what? And there was no end game to this thing. And I was like, the reason you're wanting these is because Matthew and Charlie, our neighbors, they're playing with them, and you want them because it's cool and it's this thing that you're buzzing after, and you're getting, when you get given one, you get this dopamine release, and you're part of a tribe, and you've got this thing, this collection, and this cool thing, and it's but at the end of the day, it's only as valuable as what you give it. Like, it's just because you think it's valuable. So I'm trying to get him to step away from Pokemon cards, right? And he's 6, so it's a tough sell. but as a coach, when I talk to people in the gym, and they're chasing something, whether it's a new car. I've got a mate who's 58. Every year, new car, the next car. He blows 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, loses it on the Part X every single year. And he's just chasing this thing that doesn't exist. There's no end game to this thing. And the beauty of what we do with health and longevity and in the gym and being part of that gym, and we've had so many conversations about this, is it's the process and it's the way of life that it can give you. If you can get completely back down to real enjoyment and basics, foundations, the joy of cooking, the joy of being around people that you love, the joy of expressing your energy systems and being fit and healthy. If you can enjoy that, life can be really, really cool. You're not going up, skyrocketing, and then plummeting down, just like your blood sugar levels. We're looking after consistency, and that's what longevity is about. What you said earlier on, it's consistency at a relatively healthy level over a long period of time. And that's what a lot of the mental health issues that people have revolve around. That, I think, is this up and down roller coaster in effect that they have, rather than settling on the fact that it can be really enjoyable and a beautiful experience if you just get back to foundations, get back to the basics, and enjoy that.
They're always getting to the peak of that mountain, and then the only way from the peak of the mountain is to come down into the valley. So it's like, I heard someone talk about, it was like the valley of despair. You get to the peak of that mountain, you come down, and then you're like in that valley again, and then you're like trying to climb yourself back out of it. But you don't have to be there. I always just tell people, be consistently good, not occasionally great. Like, you don't have to be doing everything 100% all of the time. Especially when it comes to sustainable health. Maybe Jake's 70%.
Yeah, I have this.
That's-
I have this sort of working theory of 70%.
There we go. Tell them about that one.
If I can't articulate it, it's all up here. But if I've got this theory of 70% across the board, and my mood and everything. Like if I start going, if I can feel myself going over 70% and going up, I'm like, oh, bring it back down. And if I go below 70% mood or anything, I'm like, no, come on, back up we go. Find something to ground you a little bit if you're getting too excited, or the other way around. Find something to excite you a little bit or get you back grounded with reality, and think about the things you love and be around people that you enjoy. Go to the gym, work out, bring yourself back to that point, that consistent point where that life is really good at that level, and you can sustain that. But yeah, I can't explain it to people very well, but it works in my head. But yeah.
I love that. It reminds me of that story with that, I don't know if it's real, that king who had the gold ring and inscribed in it to keep him grounded. Exactly, that 70% thing, basically. He had it inscribed in his gold ring, and this too shall pass. So if he's feeling euphoric, he is reminded this is going to pass.
Yeah, this too shall pass.
The bottom of the barrel.
I think I've heard that phrase. Where have I heard that phrase? This too shall pass.
You're probably thinking of "Thou shall not pass" from Lord of the Rings.
You shall not pass.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up that, because I'm sure that rings a lot of bells in my head. But yeah,
I'm gonna Google it now
because it sounds really familiar. Persian origin. Yeah, it's that essence of, no matter if it's a good point in your life, a bad point in your life, whether you're highly emotional, whether you're under emotional, whatever it is, whether you're rich for the day, whether you're poor for the day, this too shall pass. Everything that you are experiencing right now, and we've got a fairly high degree of certainty here, you'll move on from it. And it's a really decent. Some people think of it as a negative. Some people hear that and think it's a bad way of being, but you can't enjoy what you're doing at the moment. That's not the point. It's an understanding that you, in actual fact, it forces you to be present. It forces you to be present with the knowledge that it will pass. So enjoy it right now. Or the other thing, like, have you used an echo bike before? Like the assault bike, the exercise bike with the handle as well. If you're on one of them, people sometimes zone out. They say, right, I've just got to hide. I've got to close my eyes and ignore all the discomfort. But the truth of the matter is, you should open your eyes and experience it all. You should be wanting to feel that, because that's when you're most alive. And it's that thing of, this too shall pass. It will pass. It will pass. But you've got to put in the effort. So be present, enjoy the moment, because it will pass. Yeah, it's all good.
I play that game with myself. That reminds me, when you said that, I do sometimes. I'm sitting in the sauna and I'm just I'll avoid looking at the sound timer, but sometimes I think, no, you know what, I'm going to watch this. It's not going to happen, but I'm just going to stare at it and suffer and enjoy the suffering.
Yeah, oh man, I'll end my input on this note. But a few years back, me and my wife were in the sauna at our gym that we had, and my knees were really I had really bad knee issues, and I couldn't do any cardio. So I came up with this idea of doing my my zone 2 and zone 3 in a sauna. So I'd sit in a sauna for like an hour at a time with a certain thing, get my heart rate up to like 150, and just sit until it went above 150, and then I got out. And then one day I decided to go over the period of time that I'd got really conditioned to in this, and it was literally 3 minutes over, and my heart rate went boom, and it went up to 210, and my iWatch was saying get out or change something, and Katie had already got out by that point. And I stumbled out just before I passed out, and I sat down on those weird curved sort of seats outside the sauna, like the tiled seats. I just sat there and I passed out. I was out for 10 minutes, and Katie was just laughing. There was people in the jacuzzi with her, like, saying, "Is he all right?" He's like, "Yeah, it's fine." But that, if you are after a real challenge for endurance, sauna, you literally sat there because there's nothing you can do. You can't slow it down. You can't speed it up. It is tough, isn't it? I love that. I love that you brought that up. Such a good one. But yeah, it's not healthy, but it's
Yeah,
just what
I mean,
No.
you got to play, you got to stay interested and do things that, like we said, it's a trade-off. Something that's going to give you a bit of a dopamine. Another stupid sauna story of mine is there's one time I just thought I'm going to go as long as I can because my friend who doesn't go sauna much joined me once, and he did 35 minutes straight, and he was at the end of it, but he did. I was very impressed. I thought I lost a bet. I said, you're not going to do more than 30 minutes. So he did more than 30 minutes. I thought, all right, next time I come, I'm going to up my game. So I went on my own next time, and I was getting like pretty towards the end of my capacity. So then I shuffled over towards the door. So I'm on the top shelf. There's the door in front of me, and there's the panic button. So I'm thinking, right, don't pass out. All I've got to do is get out. If I'm really not going to make it, I'll just press the button. And then, this is all I'm thinking for, I don't know, felt like an hour. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, panic button, door, panic button, door, don't die, you're all right. And then I was all right towards the end. I hit my time and I get out. And as I'm opening the door, I felt fine. I just hit the panic button just because I've been thinking about it so long.
Love that.
See, I used to coach in a facility that had the MMA gym, so I used to see people in the sauna, like sauna suit on, sitting on the assault bike, pedaling. I've seen Ross Houston, who's a Cage Warriors champ, in there with a ski erg, like honestly, just nuts, like losing like 18 pounds of water weight, just insane, and then going in saunas for enjoyment after watching that isn't an enjoyable experience.
There's nothing like it because an RX Plus. So if you want to go real hard, is no water. You just go in there and you sit, and add the assault bike into it. Yeah. It's just your heart rate starts going up, and then your mouth's going dry, and then the skin's burning, and you sit up, and then you lay back down, and you find a cooler spot, and then you're moving around, and it's just pure discomfort. And there's nothing you can do, and the only thing you can do is quit. It's like there's the door, and it's tempting you all the bloody time, and you're like, no, I'm not going to give up. And then eventually you convince yourself, I've done enough, and you get out. Yeah, fun sauna talk, eh?
There we go.
Oh, I got
it
my
translates to so much more than just a sauna. It's that earned self-respect that carries you throughout the rest of your day.
Yeah, for sure. I want one at home, but I can't afford it.
You can get that with obviously with the sauna, but you can get that with anything as well.
Exactly.
You're doing thresholds on a bike, ski, anything like that. I could stop. I've probably done enough, but you keep going, and it's and
Friday night, we had a really shitty long day on Thursday, right? Friday night, I went to the fridge. I hadn't eaten anywhere near enough. I had no sleep on the Thursday night, and I went to the fridge, and my wife's baked brownies and stuff, and all this stuff. And I went there, and I ended up getting a Droverse, a South African sausage stick, and some frozen fruit and a shake, and sat down and had that, and I got the same feeling. I was like, "Fuck yeah! I've just made a really hard, healthy decision." But I've felt I've earned that feeling of accomplishment. But sometimes it can be really simple wins. It is just the way that we convince ourselves.
I did the opposite. I fasted all day on Friday from getting up in Birmingham, getting home, and then I had a Chinese on Friday night.
Nice.
Enjoy it.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Doctor, thank you so much for your time. I know we've gone well over, and we've talked about all sorts of stuff that we probably shouldn't have. But yeah, no, really appreciate your time. And so Thrive Doctor is we'll obviously post. We did post your Instagram page, but is there if there's anything that we can do to help kind of promote or get the name or your business out there, just let us know. We'd love to help you.
I will link your website in the description of the YouTube video. I will post it again on our story. We'll get a clip and we'll put it up, and we'll link your page on here anyway. And yeah, we will promote it. And you're welcome back on anytime.
Yeah, beautiful. Really enjoyed talking to you both. And yeah, I'd love to come back. And I do, I think your audience might be happy to find out. I do have a good friend who is a penis doctor.
Really?
Yes.
I'm sure he'd love to come on.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah, he's a great guy as well, very knowledgeable about lots of things beyond just penis doctoring. So you can
we
also
won't.
pick.
Penis
Right.
doctoring.
Okay, stay on topic.
Yeah,
Brilliant. That's perfect. Thank you.
we will definitely have a penis doctor on.
There we go.
There we go.
Nice one.
Right, guys. Thank you very much. If you just hold on, I will end. Unless Jake, have you got anything to say?
Stay healthy.
Right, there we go.